No, I'm happy to. 1, 2, 3, uno, cerrando. Jesus Christ. Hello, and welcome to this edition. Hello. Hello, and welcome to this edition of the online version of the DCI Reporter. My name is Franklin Garcia, and I'm excited to be with you sharing some of the news and things that are going on. I wanted to make sure that I keep connection with my community, and this is why I've decided to bring what is traditionally a studio, a TV studio show. I decided to bring it to a home version of it. But anyways, I wanted to make sure that everybody's doing fine. I'm very saddened by the news of the coronavirus. As you know, right now we have over 1.4 million infected people in the world, with more than 81,000 deaths. And in the U.S. alone, we have more than 394,000 people infected and over 12,000 people that have actually died. Here in the DC area, we're controlling the epidemic or the pandemic, but we're not doing as we should. And we hope that people stay home so that we can reduce the infection, because every day we see the numbers growing and growing. Currently in DC, more than 1,200 people are infected. 24 dead have been reported. In Maryland, we have over 4,000 infected with 103 dead. In Virginia, more than 3,333 is what the official number is, with at least 63 dead. I wanted to play something that I did, a little speech that I gave earlier this year at the Chinese New Year parade. Listen to what I said back in the at the beginning of the year, before the situation became a pandemic. Let me find this footage here. And this is, oh boy, let's see. Come on. All right. Here's what I said.
参议众议员 Frank Garcia 先生致辞。
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the DC representative, Mr. Frank Garcia, to give us a remark.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. I don't know if you noticed, but the crowds every year get larger and larger and larger. Let me congratulate the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association under the leadership of Arthur Liu and Jenny Ho for having bringing us one of the best parades right here to the future 51st state in the entire nation. So thank you so much for doing that. Let me also say a word of solidarity for the people of China. I know the Wuhan coronavirus has now killed more than 56 people and has infected more than 2,000. And currently in the U.S., we now have at least 3 confirmed people infected. And not to underplay the importance of knowing that we have a virus that has no cure, but like all their crises, other health crises, the Ebola, the HIV, the dengue, we will combat this together in the global community. So our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we will fight this. Feliz Año Nuevo.
Okay, that was back at the beginning.
Right, so here's what I've learned. Here's the secret to kicking this virus. It's not a pill or a potion.
At the beginning of the year, and we have
the
now
virus wants us to lay down.
seen the numbers.
The virus
When
wants us to
I
take
spoke
Other
at
than the
the
blessed few, the
Chinese
rest of
New
us who get
Year,
this
we
are
only
gonna have
had
experiments unlike anything else.
we only had 3 confirmed cases, and now we see that from 3 we've gone to almost 400,000. And it's a shame that we weren't looking at the numbers out in China at that time, so that we could actually have done something to prevent the situation, at least reduce the numbers. I'm also saddened to hear that a lot of the people, or at least the deaths that have taken place, are from the African American community. This is a particular group that has been hit very hard. And so we need to make sure that we tell people to stay home and to practice the protocol. Wash your hands constantly, keep your distance when you can. Make sure that you stay home. Unless you are an essential person, please don't go outside now. This is the only way that we know to reduce these numbers. There are places I looked at a city or a state where African American accounted for over 70% of people who died. Just very sad. And some of the reasons why that's happening is possibly that a lot of the essential workers right now, people who are saving all of us, are African Americans, and also other reasons. But the point being is that we need to ensure that everybody stays safe. So please stay home unless you have to go outside. Stay home, and that's the one way that you can ensure that we are all safe and we are working on this together. I wanted to tell you also, in the District of Columbia, as you know, some of you who live in DC or in the region, we're going to have a primary election take place on June 2nd. And to ensure that we continue to mitigate this pandemic, it's been decided that a lot of the precincts, 144 we have in the city, are going to be shut. They're not going to be shut down, that is closed. And we're going to try to have people engage in voting by absentee ballot. So they're asking the Board of Elections, and everybody, all the leadership of the city is asking that you start requesting your absentee ballot so that you can be ready to vote. Now, you can start requesting this now. There are a number of ways that you can do this. Let me show you. The Board of Elections website has a number of ways in which you can request an absentee ballot. And what that'll do is either make you ready or put you ready to ensure that you can vote on June 2nd. You can do it online. If you want, you just have to go to their website. And their website is the DC. If you just type in, if you Google the DC Board of Elections, you'll find that it's dcboe.org. So you can order an absentee ballot online, or you can send them an email and request one. You can also fax your request to them. Basically, any possible way that you can get to the Board of Election and let them know that you want to have an absentee ballot, they will get one to you. The key things to know about the process is that when you order your absentee ballot, you then need to ensure that you mail it in and it's postmarked before or on election day, June the 2nd. So if you go online and you download the form and you complete it, make sure that you have it into them by the 2nd of June. Somehow you can, as I said earlier, you can fax it over to them. Now you have to have it into them at least 7. You must, this is how it goes. You must have it requested at least 7 days so that you can get it. But you have to have it in, once you complete it, by election day. So, and then also another caveat is that it must be, so for example, say that you mail it in on election day and it's postmarked by the postage, by the mail system, that you mail it in on the 2nd. They must receive it also within 7 days. So be sure that you mail it in or you get it to them as soon as you can. And at any rate, it must be postmarked by election day. That's important. So make sure that you do that. I also wanted to, and I'm encouraging, I know that a lot of you may have heard the president saying that he doesn't believe a lot in mailing ballots and absentee ballots, even though he engages in it because that's how he votes in Florida. But we think that this is a good strategy that the city is engaging in, because either, sure, we don't know when this pandemic is going to go away. And unlike some states, I know Wisconsin held elections in person today, and a lot of people, we saw the news where a lot of people actually physically showed up to the ballots, to the polls, and we think that that's somewhat irresponsible. I think that you should try to reduce the number of people you have coming out to places, whatever it be. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the DC Council today. The DC Council, you'll remember that about, I think it was March 17th, they had a package called the COVID-19 Response Emergency Act of 2020, and that was in response to our need for funding to ensure that people are taken care of in the city. You'll remember that we talked a little bit about the federal aid package, how DC was cheated out of monies because it was considered to be a territory and not a state. On average, every state would get about $2,000 per capita, that is per resident, funding from the federal government. DC would get about $700 because, unlike other states, DC was grouped into 5 other territories, so about $3.3 billion was allocated for the territories, and DC would just get a portion of that based on per capita, so DC would get about $700 per capita, whereas the states are going to get a lot more. On average, they're going to get, the citizens of their states are going to get about $2,000 per capita, which amounts to $1.25 billion per state. This is something that we found to be incredibly unfair, given that DC pays more federal taxes than 22 other states, and our population is bigger than 2 states and comparable to at least 7 others. We think that the treatment of DC was totally unfair, and we're still fighting that to ensure that in subsequent funding that we get addressed adequately. Incidentally, DC has been always included as a state for funding purposes by the federal government, and at this time they decided to include us as a territory. But anyways, at the local level, the DC Council approved today a second version of what the original bill was that was issued back at the beginning of March, on the 17th of March. This would be their second relief package for the citizens of the District of Columbia. And I wanted to highlight some of the things that this bill is going to do, because I found this to be a very good response to the crisis by our city council member. Incidentally, they had a virtual meeting, which I think is the first time they've ever done this. All 12 of them joined and unanimously passed this bill. Now, here are some of the things that this bill will cover or include in terms of benefit for the citizenry. It'll be, let me just read some of these highlights here that it will have. Rents are frozen across the district of, let me see if I can put in this this here so you can see as I read them to you, because I find them to be very, very useful. Let me just see here. Actually, no. Let me just go ahead and read them to you. So, among some of the benefits that the citizens are going to get is they're going to have the rents will be frozen across the district, not only in rent control homes, but pretty much everywhere. Rent will be frozen. And then mortgage companies will be required to offer payments deferral up to 90 days. That is very, very good. And incidentally, when you think about that, because I had to deal with some of that, if you have a mortgage and you get it deferral for 90 days, you still accrue interest. That is, if you pay a $2,000 mortgage payment this month and you decide to take advantage of this, you don't have to do it when you call your bank, you don't necessarily have to take advantage of this. Obviously, it's only if you're being affected by this pandemic. But say that you were, your payment would be deferral, but you still are going to be accruing interest. That is, whatever interest was due, you still are going to be responsible for it as of today, unless something different happens. I call the number of banks, and that's how they're dealing with it. They allow you to defer the payments, and then some of them are going to decide to maybe re-amortize the remaining, your mortgage, or some may just have you pay it at one-time lump sum if you can afford to do that, or maybe tag it onto the end of your mortgage. There are various ways in which mortgage lenders are doing this. But the point being that all the ones I call, the major banks at least, they all are accruing interest while the payments are being deferral. So not so good there. The other benefit that the citizens are going to see, or the residents of the city are going to see, is the protection against utilities shutoffs. Those will be expanded to include cable and telecommunication services, so they can't turn off your your internet connection because you can't pay. Debt collection lawsuits and seizures of cars and other properties are prohibited. The definition of employment for the purpose of collecting unemployment would be expanded to include part-time workers and self-employment also. And then also another item here that shows is that Mayor Muriel Bowser has been given the authority to extend the emergency orders for a total of 90 days, ending in mid-June. And then a $25 million grant program has been established for DC hospitals to buy equipment, hire staff, and build temporary hospitals. This is very, very important. And another one that I thought is worthy to mention is that every voter in the June 2nd primary and the Ward 2 special election on June 16th will get an application for an absentee ballot in the mail with return postage pay. Now, I started earlier telling you how you can yourself request an absentee ballot by simply going to the Board of Elections website, downloading the form, and then printing it at home and getting it to the Board of Elections either through an email as an attachment, or you can fax it over to them. And of course, you can always print it, sign it, and send it through the regular mail. But what they're saying here is that in addition to those options that you have, you will also get a printed absentee ballot with its self-stamped envelope, apparently, that you can use. So if you don't want to do it on your own, apparently you're going to receive something in the mail that will give you also an absentee ballot that you can send in, which is always good. One thing that I was disappointed about the supplemental bill that was approved today is the exclusion of certain people in our community, specifically the undocumented population. You know that DC has a large immigrant population, more than 40,000 people who live in the city are possibly people undocumented that right now are seeing no benefits from, or very little benefits. Obviously, some benefits may include them, but directly as in terms of people who can apply for employment services and get other benefits and grants, they are not going to be eligible for that. And so I was hoping that I had earlier in the week, I had written a statement to all the council members and copied Mayor Muriel Bowser, asking them to please find creative ways to help the undocumented population. And the reason why I was so adamant about that is because I've gotten so many calls and so many people have been asking, how do I do this? How do I get, pay these bills that I'm piling up that I need to pay? And even for food, I directly have gotten a lot of those calls. And these are people that have no other means to get money other than their work, and they're out of work right now, unfortunately. And so I am working with others trying to find creative ways also to get money or some financial relief to people in the community. There's an organization that I want to, let me see if I can put their website up. And they actually are very good and have been very creative in trying to help the community. It's an organization called Ayuda. Ayuda.com. Let me put them up on this on the screen so you can see it. What they did is they started a fund to help collect money for people who would not otherwise get money through these programs, the government programs. And it looks like they started out trying to collect $25,000 and they've already collected over 32,000, which is good. And this is basically people that donate, just people like yourselves who just understand that there's a great need in our community, and out of the goodness of your heart, you go to this website and make a donation. So I encourage you, please, to go to ayuda.com. Now, Ayuda is AYUDA.com, ayuda.com, and make a donation if you can. I know that everybody's right now is stretched thin for money, but there are people who always need a lot more than we do. And so I hope that you find it in your heart to help those in greater need. So this is what they're doing. We're trying to also do something similar, and I think the more the people that actually come up with creative ways to help this community, the better. I know there are all kinds of challenges in trying to, in different jurisdictions, in trying to deal with this issue, because I know DC is not unique in having a documented workforce in their jurisdiction. So I'm sure that other parts are also trying to find ways to help the undocumented community. And so, whatever way you think you can help this particular segment of our population that has been hit very, very hard, and right now is their future is very uncertain, but they need to survive. They need food like everybody else. They need, a lot of these people, are the only people, the only individuals that provide for their households, and in some cases they also have people overseas that they help, and now they're not able to provide much help to people anywhere because they themselves need help. And so please, if you can, go to ajuda.com and contribute. And then I basically wanted to just make one last comment about the process. As you know, there is going to be a primary coming up, and it is very challenging for a lot of people who are running for public office in the June 2nd primary. People are trying to find ways to do politics and maintain their connection with the community, and it is very challenging. There is a financial deadline for a lot of the people running for office coming up in a few days, and it's very challenging asking people for money to make donations at this time. But we have to, in some ways, carry on. I am running, as some of you know, for a seat on the DC Council, and a financial deadline is coming up on the 10th of April, in 3 days from today. And so I need to also do my reporting, and so I hope that some of you would consider going to my website, franklinfordc.com, and making a small donation if you can. I would very much appreciate that. But I wanted to end it up with that, and I hope you have a great evening, and hope to see you tomorrow or next time I do another Facebook Live. Thank you for watching.